Slap me silly and call me Al Raboski. It's episode 50, and I'm the mad American. Chad Chop, your beard looks like a mad Hungarian. How's episode 50? How's it taste to you?
I mean, it feels good. And it's one of those things where I'm really excited to have our guest on today. He's one of my favorite humans. He's what we talk about when we talk about the Dodgers organization. They just have great humans that are really, really good at their job, but they're really curious and awesome and humble. So really excited to have Aaron Bates on today for our 50th episode.
Snaps for Aaron Bates.
Coach Bates.
Hitting coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Good morning,
Thanks
Coach.
for having me, guys. Thanks for having me.
How you doing today? What'd you have for breakfast?
I had a waffle that my son half ate, and I ate the rest of it. My little 16-month-old, and then my other little guy wanted a juice, so I had some of his juice too. I just kind of split half and half.
For those of us that don't we have kids, so we get that completely. But if you don't have kids, that's kind of what you do. It's like, well, I mean, I could make myself something, but my kids aren't going to eat it. So I'm just going to go ahead and graze off of what they do and figure it out later. I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And my kids call me the garbage disposal. I make a big old breakfast and, the girls nibble at it and then I ended up eating the rest, because I'm not throwing anything away. So there's all sorts of bread crust in my belly right now.
You love to see it. Well, Batesy had a great multi-sport athlete when he was growing up, Coach Ballgame. He won a title as a quarterback his senior year. They went 12-1, and football was his thing back then. But then obviously could swing it, drafted in the third round by the Red Sox and did his thing. Played in the big leagues, had a lot of hits for 11 at bats, 4 for 11 if I remember correctly. And super handsome, tremendous human, great hitting coach. So we're really excited to have you on, Batesy. Anything you want to add to that as far as your youth growing up, Batesy? Any other accolades that I missed?
No, that was it. Football was my favorite sport. That was better at baseball long term.
Yeah,
so I love baseball.
And you're good at golf. I've golfed.
I love to play golf.
You're
I don't know about good, but I love to play golf. That's what I would say.
We played night golf. I know
yes,
that off the record, we played night golf before, and that was fun.
Feel your shots. Got to feel your shots.
I've got more accolades. Freshman All-American, San Jose State. They're the Spartans. Two-time All-American at NC State Wolfpack. We both know Brian Wright. Be right. Shout out to you. Love you, brother. Cape Cod League All-Star, 2005. Home Run Derby champ, 2005. Was Longo in that Home Run Derby?
He didn't hit enough homers to get into that Home Run Derby.
Sorry about it.
Dang. You can tell Longo I said that.
Friend of the pod.
I'm going to text him right after this.
You should. You say he was too skinny back then. He hit, he had decent average. He hit game homers that summer. He didn't hit anybody in BP. Yeah.
How many bombs did you hit in that Derby to win?
So I think it was 3 rounds, but the last round, the guy had 6, and I hit 7 straight without making it out, and I bat flipped it and walked off.
Mic drop. So good.
It was the year that Abreu hit a bunch in Detroit because they overjuiced the balls in Detroit. But in the Cape, we were using the rag balls that you get in college. And my coach threw some good BP at the time. I just got into a groove. I had a nice big leg kick, and I just got into a good groove, and it hit 7 straight and kind of walked off. It was done.
Similar Home Run Derby story. Do you know Carl Cochin, strength coach with the Dodgers?
Of course. He was my strength coach in 2008 with AAA with Boston.
So he challenged me to a Home Run Derby. This is 2016. You know the story. But same thing. He went first and hit 0 home runs. I think he hit 1 ball out of the infield.
I was going to say, and I took swing.
No. And I took 3 swings and hit 3 straight homers at Scottsdale Stadium and bat flipped, and they basically dogpiled me at home plate. All the players. It was great.
I cannot believe Carl challenged you to a Home Run Derby.
I couldn't either. It was like Rocky.
I've seen him run. I don't Carl see this. I've seen him run. There's no way that he can swing.
Hey, so he came out from right field in his college uniform with music, and his wife had a poster in the stands. She was the only one in the stands because it wasn't before a game. There's no reason to be there. That said Bomb Squad. And I was like the Russian. So he was Apollo Creed doing all this nonsense. And I was just silent, like, okay, I'm going to hit mammoth homers and not talk about it. And so he did
No
the
way
Apollo
his uniform
Creed.
still hit. His uniform did not still fit him. That was a new uniform.
Couldn't have. It had to have been new. He claimed it was the same, but it was no way. It was great. Bat flip. See ya.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well,
So,
Batesy,
yeah.
I mean, this is going to be one of my favorite conversations because I mean, you are a hitting coach at the highest level with the Mookie Betts, the Freddie Freemans, the Trey Turners, the Albert Pujols. I mean, you are in the thick of it with them in the cage day in, day out. Meanwhile, Chopper is teaching high school players how to get to that next level. And then I'm at the very beginning. So we've kind of got like apples, oranges, and grapefruits, 3 different levels. And I'm excited to just unpack for our listeners who I think span that globe of little leaguers, travel ballers, high school, college, wanting to get to the pro level. Like, how do you unpack hitting for each of these age groups? And maybe let's start there. Would you agree that little league versus high school is an apples to oranges approach as far as teaching the skill of hitting, or is there some continuity there?
I would say that when it comes to the little leaguers, depending on the age group and how good they are and that sort of thing, it's you're keeping it a little bit more simple. And there's unified positions everybody wants to get to. And then as the kids get older, you kind of realize what that kid's skill set is working with. You can get a little bit more technical with them, but it's not very cookie cutter in that sense. Every kid's different. Every kid's body moves different. And just kind of depends on what his moves are. And then generically speaking, as you get older and older and you get to the major league guys, like for me, I just treat them like they're little leaguers still, talk to them that way. And then you can kind of get through them a little bit more. It's just one of the things that I always promised myself I'd never be afraid. I'd never be afraid to coach a major league player. And that's just my, my philosophy personally, because I think everybody wants to be coached. You mentioned Albert Pujols, who Chopper was around. That's one of his things. He wants to be coached. He wants to be told if something's going on good or bad. And I think that a pitfall is that sometimes coaches get gun shy when it comes to those kind of players, because, at first someone might be intimidated by that person or something like that, but they're just guys, and they're all little leaguers at heart anyways. And if they don't know it in that moment, they are. You just got to tell them they're a little leaguer, that kind of thing. Because everyone always tells them how great they are. So sometimes when you tell them that they're not, they respect it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say there's a lot of commonalities. But being around Chopper and watching the way Chopper coaches the kids, I always said to him, I wish my son lived closer because I'd have him coach him, because he's so great with them, the way he talks to him and the way he coaches and gets through to kids. I have so much respect for the way he does it and goes about it. But yeah, the commonalities, I think, is you got to coach each kid individually and understand what their moves are and what they're trying to do and what they need in that moment in time. And making sure when they're younger, they're having fun and they're hustling and listening. And as they get older, it kind of can get on them a little bit more. But it just depends on the circumstances and the situation.
Yeah, I kind of have a 5-step process when I see an 8-year-old and I'm trying to make them a better hitter. And it's the same 5-step process that I learned in college, but I'm just communicating it in a much more simple way, just really breaking it down to balance. And I might not harp on that so much with a high schooler or a college player, but I mean, for me, foundation is number one when I'm working with a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old. Where do you go first, Batesy, when you got an 18-year-old, straight to the show or right there in rookie ball? I heard you on a different podcast talking about, well, let's just get to know them and build some trust first. So once you've, chatted about what they love to eat for breakfast and, what their favorite movie is and really built that trust, where do you start? Blank slate.
I'll probably look at his lower half. What position does he get into when his front heel gets into the ground, and where are his hands at when his heel gets into the ground? Is he launching from a spot that's creating some stretch and some tension so he can, really fire his back hip, and then, the upper body kind of comes along for the ride? It's an old school drill, but if he had a fungo in his hands, can he throw the fungo to center field with his lower body? You know, his upper body's like a spaghetti noodle coming along for the ride. And you can do that if your hands are in a good position. You know, we'll generically say they're over your back foot, kind of right around your shoulder, height wise, and your front heel's hitting the ground. You can feel it if you close your eyes and kind of feel where your hands would want to be, and you're up here and your front heel hits the ground and your fires your lower half, and everything kind of comes along for the ride. But if you can throw that bat to center field, and that's your external focus as a kid, and you're not really worried about your body, you're worried about, okay, I got to throw this bat with my legs to center field. Your body should self-organize a little bit, and you know, and we can get out as technical as somebody wants, but your front side decel or whatever you want to call it, you'll make it happen. You know, a lot of kids, if you didn't the first time, they might throw it behind them, might throw it to the dugout behind them, whether it's right-handed or left-handed. Then you pick it up and you kind of get them out in the field and tell them to do it again, and you'd be surprised how the body can self-organize and they can release the bat correctly.
I love that. I'll go same place. I mean, that's where I start with a blank slate for a 6, 7, 8-year-old. But let's go in order. Chopper, you got a 9th grader coming out of middle school. What's your foundation? Where do you go first?
I love what Batesy said, and I completely agree. And the way I describe it to high schoolers is your lower half is your military, right? That's the violence in your swing. That's the aggression from your back hip. And then your upper body is the diplomat. You just want it to be smooth. And I love that term, go along for the ride. That's the same thing I do. I was lucky to have Sean Green's dad as my hitting coach in high school. And he created that hip shoulder separation with just a simple drill of 1, 2, and 3. And we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, but step 1, stride, hands back in a good launching position. Step 2, a little hip trigger with the hands really not moving yet, maybe a slight elbow like slot. And then step 3, just let your upper body kind of follow the aggression of your lower half. But completely agree with Batesy. And you can do that with the high schooler. I'm curious to know how you do that with the babies, Coach.
Well, I mean, as a 6, 7-year-old, they haven't played outside linebacker, so they don't really know that crossover step or that defensive maneuver in basketball. You know, hopefully by the time they get to high school, college, pro ball, they've played multiple sports. They've learned a lot of different ways to do the same thing. So the word's balance, but I just say, everybody look at these trees or look at that fence. Why is it not falling over when the wind blows? And you get that 6-year-old, 7-year-old thinking and trying to answer that question. And maybe 1 or 2 of them will say roots. And I say, okay, now let's stand up. Let's get in a stance and let's become a tree. And now let's try and take a slow motion swing and hold the finish without falling over. Simple as that. I don't really go much further than that on day 1. But hopefully by the end of the week, they can take a swing as fast as they want to. And at no point in that swing would I say freeze and could push them over. Like they could stay rooted in the ground, you know, no matter how hard I'm trying to push them over. So that's where I start. And then, yeah, if I see somebody that's pretty talented, a 9, 10-year-old that's ready to move on up a little bit, then yeah, we might start working a little something more advanced. But that's how I go with the babies.
I like that. And I wrote down some characteristics and qualities of a great hitting coach. And Batesy hit on this right out of the gate. Because the first one I have is knowledge of the swing and knowledge of the hitter's swing. And that's really important. If you're going to work with a guy, you just want to see what he's working with. Usually there's one of 2 kind of swing paths. Either they're a little steep or they're a little shallow. So as a hitting coach, you know drills for both. I've leaned on Batesy in the past with a kid who's really steep. It's like, all right, what are some drills you can do where they're not thinking about mechanics? And Batesy's like, all right, see if he can hit as high as he can to center field to try to get him on plane earlier. And the opposite's true with a guy who's really shallow. It's like, okay, we'll try to hit a low line drive at the pitcher's shins, so to speak. You're still using the middle of the field, which is speaking to Batesy, like throwing that fungo up the middle. But you're just kind of we're just trying to get every hitter on the same plane, getting on plane early and staying through the ball as long as possible. But I love that, Batesy. You hit number 1 out of the park as far as the qualities of a great hitting coach. You got to know what you're working with.
I think knowing the hitter, knowing what going to your tool belt and different drills for that particular kid's swing, and then being able to say the same thing 15 different ways. That's what I think a good coach can do. You have a bunch of different ways of saying it because it's going to click differently with everybody. It's not necessarily the hitter's job to click with you. It's you got to find ways to get through to the kid or the player. And it's kind of like if you're a teacher in school, if my students were falling asleep, I better find a new way to get their attention and that kind of a thing. And that's the way I've kind of always looked at it, is we are teachers, but in school and you got kids falling asleep in your class, it's kind of a red flag. Either they're not staying out late every night, maybe once or twice, but usually you got to find a new way to get through to them and find a new way to say something.
Communication's another one that I have on there, is communication skills. And you and I've had great conversations on this when we would use humor in our hitters meetings just to try to get, these best hitters in the world, get their attention back, because you're going to lose. Like, I've already lost my attention span multiple times, and I really care about this. You know what I mean? So it's like, being that teacher, you're absolutely right. And kind of knowing when to say when, as far as, okay, a hitter's struggling, is he open to it right now? Or does he have to struggle a little bit more, to where, okay, now they're in a place where they're receptive to, what you can do to help them,
Yeah. I mean, I think I use sarcasm a lot, as you know,
Yeah.
and the guys that take it the best is, I mean, I feel comfortable enough talking like a guy about Lux, right? So if he's struggling, sometimes you say, hey, we're going to work on hitting ground balls to second base today, Lux, during the game. You're really good at, can you lead this meeting since you know how to do it best? and he and if he saw this, he would laugh, at me. So yeah. he knows that I would say it to his face too, but something like that to throw guys off. Because, if you're always serious, they're expecting, okay, here's another hitters meeting. You go, all right, guys, today we're going to get this game over with quick. We have a plane to catch after the game. So how fast can we make this game go and not score any runs? What do we got? People might look at you sideways or whatever it is, but it just it's throwing guys off. Like I said, using sarcasm, kind of being real with them when it's going array, and then also complimentary at times too when you need to be. You can't always just be making fun of them and that sort of thing too.
So good.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Well, some of the best conversations I've ever had are with hitting coaches in the batting cage, where we're going to center field with it. We're working on our balance, we're working on our vision, but we're just talking, we're building our relationship. When's the last time you got super amped about an accomplishment one of your players had? Maybe he's been struggling, and you guys have been just digging in the cage for weeks or months. Can you remember the last time that happened?
Two times last 2 years. Luxie's walk off against Knable in the Phillies early on in the season.
Yeah,
the walk off double. He may have been 0 for 75 at that point. At least felt like it was. And he hit a curveball out front of it, and he hit a line drive down the right field line to win the game. And then the Muncie's walk-off homer with Chopper was there to end the first half of the season against the Diamondbacks, and I thought the ball was going to go through the bleachers. He hit it so hard.
Yeah.
But he was locked in the whole thing. Mookie might have walked the pitch before, or I think Muncie might have hit it too. I'm not really sure. And it was like a 2-1 pitch it was a 2-1 heater that he hit. I felt like it was 120 miles an hour. I don't know how hard it was. I thought it was going to go through the bleachers, but he hit it, just stood there. First half was over, and it's time to, for All-Star break. But it just the way the conviction, the way he was going at that point in time. Earlier in the year in 21, he was on a 4 for 50 stretch, and you thought months just like he was trying everything he possibly could. And then he went off in June, and he wound up being an All-Star that year. But those two for me, because their guys were grinding beforehand, you can you feel, the passion and how hard it is.
Yeah. And you're there day in, day out, and you're seeing these seeds that they're hitting in the cage. You're seeing the improvements they're making in their swing, but the nature of baseball, man, you're going to hit some line drives. You're going to get caught, bad breaks. What role do you play when a guy is 4 for 50? Like where are you big brother? Are you funny uncle? Are you challenging them to grind even harder? What's your role?
They're usually past the grind stage at that point. You got to try something different. You got to go outside the box, do something to get their mind off it. Maybe convince them to try to hit the ball at somebody or try to get out. And then if you get out, you accomplished your goal. But if you don't, you'll be really excited. It's like try to hit the tree in front of you when you're in golf. If you hit it, you hit the tree. But if you miss it, you're in the fairway. So let's just shift the perspective a little bit. Like, hey, you're going to get out. You're really good at that right now. So let's try to get out. And then maybe you won't. Something like that. It's hard to tell major league players getting paid a lot of money, to do that. but this is after they've already been grinding. That was a week before when they were, you're seriously grinding. And then you're at the point like, well, okay, so we got to do something different.
Well,
you can try righty. If you're left-handed, you can go up there and try righty. You're going to get out lefty if you go up there. So might as well try righty.
But that sense of humor. I mean, we've had Jock Peterson on. We've had a lot of Dodgers on. And I think I tell a lot of people this is why the Giants and the Dodgers have been so great for the last decade. They had a dude in Chad Chop that when you need a dig me sesh, or you need to laugh, or you need to feel like you're the Incredible Hulk in the box, you've got this guy. Same with you, Batesy. Like the Dodgers have built this family of coaches and mentors, and all these players that come on this podcast, they're like, man, I miss you, Chopper. Like I need you in that clubhouse.
Jock needs Chop in his life. Jock definitely needs Chop in his life. Yeah.
And so does Kike.
And then Blake Trinan the same way. Blake Trinan needs some Chop in his life.
Yeah, that's facts.
Right?
Just he FaceTimed me like 2 days ago. That's facts.
Yeah. Oh, he was hurting this year. His arm was bugging. Like, you need to call. We need to FaceTime Chop. You're not hurt right now. I need you to throw. I don't care if your arm comes off with the ball, but you need to talk to Chop so you feel a little better about yourself.
Throw some Morgan Wallen on, play some cards, and get him in a good space.
Yes. Yeah.
A good mental
that's another
space.
Another one of the points that you just hit on with you're just describing, like knowing how hard it is empathy. I think a really good coach has to have empathy. I think sometimes you hear hitting coaches say, like, why can't they just get a hit? It's like, dude, it's hard, and you've never lost that sight. We've had a lot of conversations about that where you sympathize with, like, dude, it's hard. So not taking that mindset of like, well, why can't they just do what we're telling them to do? Because as coaches, you guys come up with great plans. But then, as well as I do, in the box, oftentimes you just abort the plan. And it's like, okay, I'm going to sit on X, Y, or Z. And then, you know what, though? He might throw the fastball, though. And but you've never lost sight of that. I think a great coach has to have empathy. What are your thoughts on empathy? I know you believe in it, but I want to hear your words about empathy.
I think it depends on the moment. You got to read the situation and read the player. Some guys respond well to it. Some guys don't. And you kind of know when a guy needs it. If the guy's beat up pretty good, you need to show some empathy, but you can show it in different ways where he doesn't feel weak by you giving it to him. That's why, again, I would use sarcasm or something like that. Or if it's a real moment, you can have empathy and it can be real with him too. But never forgetting how hard the game is, how hard it is to hit. And then, and you can layer that in with something else too. If you need to throw a shot in there with the empathy or something like that. But yeah, it just depends on who you're talking to, who your audience is, and who the player is and how they respond to certain things. For instance, if a guy's in the cage hitting off the machine and he's struggling, but he's a major leaguer and it's a big name, you just ask him, are you trying right now? I don't think you're trying. And they go, I am trying. It's like, oh, yeah, I know the machine is hard, but you're making it look really hard, like harder than it's supposed to look. And that guy could go out there and get 4 hits and be on Baseball Tonight or on MLB Network and just be like, oh, everyone thinks you are so good on the outside. I wish they could see this right now. I'm gonna videotape this session and put it on the MLB Network, and they're like, "Wow, this guy's not good." And it's just kind of like you're acknowledging how hard it is, but then you're trying to motivate him at the same time, I guess you could say.
Well, and that's my next point, which is having feel, right? Which you're extremely good at, is knowing when, okay, dude, this guy needs some sympathy or some empathy, or he just needs me to sit there and let him vent about whatever. Could be off the field stuff. But then the other times, like, oh, your audience. Like this is feel 101 is so many people know the swing, or, they're knowledgeable coaches or hitting coaches, but do they have feel? I think feel's really hard. You have it. I think I have it, and it's, you can't really teach feel. It's like instinctive. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's social awareness. I talk about it all the time with my kids. How do you teach feel to your kids? And my theory is, and I'll let you know in 16 years when I report back, if you teach them good manners, maybe by good manners, it creates some awareness. And then if you have awareness, you'll read the room and you'll kind of, it'll create some feel down the road, some social awareness down the road if they have good manners, I don't know if that's exactly, I don't know if that's the answer, but we'll see.
I love that. We'll have to tune back in. Coach Ballgame, what are your thoughts on feel? You're another feel expert, I believe. I feel. Bang.
No doubt. I mean, yeah, I think being intuitive and kind of being sensitive to all the different things that these kids are putting out. Again, I'm at that baby level. I'm at the youth little league. They're graduated out of my program once they turn 12 years old. But like the sarcasm. Those are some of my favorite coaches, you know, in middle school, in high school. A lot of these kids, they're not ready for that sort of humor. So I've got to go a different route. Maybe I've got to go with an animal reference or a poem because they're much more literal. But as far as feel goes, it's everything. A lot of these kids, they don't love baseball yet. So I'm trying to fill out their meter for how much they love the game, and then their personality. Are they gonna respond well if I challenge, or do I need to just take the foot off the gas and just talk about an ostrich? And you know, you ever seen an ostrich imitate a caterpillar? Like, you ever seen something like that? I do feel like the best coaches, they take the time to let the kid fail. They take the time to kind of take it all in, their personality, their skill level, before they go into anything. Batesy, where do you go there as far as when is it time to, you've seen the problem for a while now, but when can you go in for the kill?
What age, or just in general?
Let's keep you where you're at. Yeah. How about that
big leaguers
at big leaguer?
When to address it, or when to go in and kind of be real with them and be a little harder on them?
Sure.
I mean, I think there's moments every day. There's always a hitter that's kind of needs that. Depends on the guy you're talking to. And then you can segregate the guys based on just calling it out as you see it. You go, okay, so if it's Mookie and Freddie are doing something and someone else is trying to do that, and they go, hey, they can do that. You're not allowed to do that yet because you're not good enough, but they're allowed to do that. But you got to make sure they're sitting in the room when they're doing that, so it makes them feel uncomfortable. And then they'll start laughing.
So
because these are two really humble guys. And so it's you just go, no, they can do that. You can't do that. I don't know you'll ever be able to do that, 'cause you're probably not going to be as good as they are ever, but you can just try to be. So right now we just need you to keep getting the pitch count up. If you're punching out a lot, you're doing something at least, and then we can let them hit. That's just, we can't skip your turn in the lineup. I wish maybe we have a pitcher hit for you, but I'm not sure. We've talked to Doc about that. Something like that. I don't know.
So good.
And that's not like exact. That's not, that conversation is not something exactly that happened, but that's just along those premises. Something that you can say in front of other players to, you have the superstars. You make them feel uncomfortable by calling them a superstar in front of their teammates. That kind of a thing, or whatever it is. Just say what everybody's thinking in the room, and then you get all the awkwardness out of the way. If someone's grouchy, you just call him grouchy in front of everybody, because everybody's saying that he thinks that he's grouchy. But if you just say it out loud from the get-go, it gets ahead of it. It's a day game. Muncie's grouchy again. All right, guys.
Yep.
Like something like that. He's not always grouchy in the day, but in general, it's just I'm using him as an example.
Now, I mean, your sarcasm is just that's such my love language. Have you ever run into a situation where somebody didn't get your sense of humor, didn't like it, they just took it personally?
Sometimes guys, sometimes you gotta be careful and you have to backpedal a little bit. I like to think Barnes and I are similar personalities, where we'll test the fence and we'll kind of, and we've got into it before, but he's one of my absolute favorites. He's a beauty because he just tests the fence with everybody. And if you react a certain way, he's going to keep going. And if you react accordingly, then he'll stop, and he kind of pushes and pulls. But he's such a competitor on the field. I respect the crap out of him, because that guy, he competes. He is tough as nails. He's one of the toughest players as far as physically not showing when he's beat up, but mentally he can test the waters a little bit. He'll test people, and it's hilarious if you see it when it's going on.
Yeah, you're not the first person that's talked about Barnesy. Like they love him around there, huh, Chopper?
Oh yeah, Barnesy is a beauty. That's a perfect way to describe him. He's funny too, because he didn't think I could be so positive, right? So like for a full year, he absolutely despised me. And then he and I joked about in like 2021, where we're like, man, this is a bummer that I'm leaving, because like we were really ready to go to another level in a friendship, because he was like, dude, you really are that positive. Like, and I was like, yeah, it's devastating that I'm leaving, because like I think you and I could have really blossomed into something special. But Barnes's the best. He's highly competitive.
That probably drove him crazy too. It probably drove him crazy that you said that.
He's like, why would you leave? Yeah, he's like, and he goes like, why would you leave? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We're gonna win 5 more World Series. What's better than here? I'm like, well, my wife. Yeah, but no, Barnes's incredible ping pong player too. And just a great dude. He is. He looks to test everybody. And almost that's kind of like a sign probably for him to see how tough you are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can I trust this guy? is he reliable when the poop hits the proverbial fan? You know,
PK, Barnesy, and Jock. If you show weakness, they will attack.
Yeah,
it's kind of like my son does it a little bit with teasing. If you react poorly, he's going to keep doing it, and it's probably me as a kid, and then as an adult too. I'm still a kid, I think, but whatever. If you react poorly to banter, I don't. It's like, oh, I got to keep doing it now, just to make sure, just to see if they.
Yeah, in the fire service, the term is never let them know where your goat's died. Like, you just don't let them know what gets you, dude. You got to keep that poker face. And like Doc says, be comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, that's a skill. But yeah, that's critical. Coach, I'll answer your question as well as far as when to do it at the high school level. I like to be mindful of certain areas. It's a little bit different with high schoolers because they could have issues with their swing that really won't get them in trouble at my level, you know? And so if a kid's swinging it and I see something that like, ooh, that could give them trouble, but they're getting away with it, I'm not getting in the way, you know? So I'll just have it in the back of my mind. And now if he starts struggling, I'm still going to try to find the right time to approach it. And oftentimes it's more than one thing. So as a hitting coach, you have to be able to determine in your head, you know, what's the most important, like almost like a to-do list. All right, that thing there, like, we got to fix his timing. His timing's, he's really late and he's getting away with it, but at some point I got to get him on time. But you still got to find the right time to do it. You got to have, can I do it where he's maybe had a little bit of success or he made a diving catch in the outfield, where you can start with, hey dude, you saved the game for us. You're the MVP yesterday. Did a great job. Hey, let's work on a few things. So you slide in that constructive criticism, and then you go right back to like, you're such a gamer, dude. I love you, man. What would we do without you? You know? So just that ability to communicate without them feeling like they're on their heels, that they're being attacked. What about you with the little leaguers, them babies?
I am so involved in making sure that they fall in love with the game. Right now, I mean, that is just my space and I'm comfortable with it. That when I see that someone is falling out of love with baseball because they're struggling, that's when I go. That's when I say, okay, this is the moment here where I've got to teach them what to do with their hands or with their eyes, just to help them along the way. I mean, I taught lessons for over a decade. I've seen every type of swing from kids ages 6 to 10. After 2 swings, I know exactly what to say. But again, you have to. I've pushed kids away because I was too soon. Just like I've pushed kids away because I was passive aggressive early on, or trying to win at all costs. So I've learned from those mistakes to wait till the last second, really. But if I notice that they are so down and out, then yeah, I'll go. And yeah, you're just reading these kids. Like, social awareness is huge as a coach. And I think we've kind of lost that in youth baseball, especially, like just the awareness of how is me yelling at an umpire right now? How is that affecting those children? And what kind of big brothers and fathers are they going to be down the road because of how I'm doing this right now? And Swisher said it. If I had a video camera and videoed some of these parents at a little league game, and then I put it on a TV and let the kid watch, do you think your kid would be proud of you? So just being aware of all these things is huge. But yeah, to answer the question, I kind of wait till, I think they want to quit. Let's go with this, because again, they haven't hit puberty yet with me. A lot of them haven't played multiple sports yet. So that's the apples to the oranges as far as that goes. I think this is a good place to kind of hit a little segment, Chopper. I had a little segment planned here called Troubleshooting. And, a lot of our listeners, they'll send us emails, my kid's stepping in the bucket, front side's flying open, lunging, all of these things. So I thought this would be a good place where I could pose a problem and the kid's ready to hear about the problem and how to fix it. And, Batesy, you and Chopper can talk about how to fix it. And let's go long swing. That's what I see a lot of. I see that long swing, hands going back. Maybe the front foot is too loud. But when you've built that trust, Batesy, and you've got a young hitter, and they're just long for one reason or the other, they're late, they're long. What What's a troubleshoot for you?
I would start with no stride, both feet on the ground. You can put a bat between their feet. So like they have to like keep the pressure on the bat, keep the pressure with their back heel's going to come up some. It's going to be kind of a tough drill for kids to do. If they're long and flat, so when you say long, I'm going to say if their lead arm, lefty or right, whatever it is barring out, it's kind of straight. And then they're flat through the zone. Like they're basically coming around and flat, like on this way, this kind of this thing. And you can keep it, they have to try to keep it bent, this back arm, I'm assuming, because if it's straight, there's no stride. And then I'm just gonna, if they're flat, I'm gonna say, okay, I want you to take this lead elbow and this knob, come right down through here, like along the white line, the chalk line of like the batter's box. So it would be this way, right? And that someone's gonna say, well, that's an uppercut. You go, well, if you're really flat this way, it's probably just gonna kind of get him where he needs to get to, obviously. And I'm right here, and it's basically pointing this way. And because when I think of length in the swing, I automatically think flat. That's what I would say, flat and around the baseball, right? So hit the inside part of the baseball. If that's too technical for a young kid, keep your lead arm bent from no strides. You're really kind of dumbing it down, and you're swinging 40%. It's nice and easy, like staying inside the baseball this way. And then as you slowly incorporate their lower half into it, you kind of see how they really react. But and I think at different levels, depending on your audience, is if they're throwing a medicine ball, when their lead foot hits from the ground, they want to throw a ball like a kickball against the wall, like from behind them. They want to throw it this way, right? So when they get in their stance, it's the same thing, and it's this way, right? Now that's for a guy who's really flat. If someone was really like stuck and uphill and long and length back here, you could tell them, okay, you got to hit a ground ball back to the pitcher. They'll probably come over the top a little bit more, and it's just a feel. It's just a cue, not that they're actually going to come over the top this way, but it's when I think of length, I think of real flat and around the ball. So it's hitting the inside part of the ball, but try to take the lower half out of it in that situation, to break it into pieces, break it into parts.
Good point.
There's a lot of things that can be causing the long swing too. They could be getting to their front side and kind of leaving their hands behind them too soon, and they're not sequencing correctly. And they're kids, so their coordination in their body is all over the place. Everyone, they get their coordination at different times. Like I grew half an inch when I was in college my freshman year. So I think people, blossom at different points in their life.
And do you still see these issues come up on a day-to-day basis at the major league level?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Lux's coordination to catch up for him. You can tell I said that.
I can't wait for him to hear this.
Chopper,
where you go?
Luxie's going to be a special guest for this pod. I know.
For the record, I say that to Luxie's face, and he would know that. So he's not. Luxie's great. He hasn't heard.
He's got thick skin.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, with high school kids, very similar. I like using the visual of that white line that's on oftentimes our hitting mats and stuff. But he talked about hitting the inside part of the ball. So what I have all my hitters do when we hit off a tee, we set that ball on their two seam, and then they just focus on that inside lace. And then that way, anytime as a coach, you can not have them thinking about mechanics, and you can have them more target based or like an objective. That's beneficial. So if it's a right-handed hitter, like, hey, dude, don't think about how you're going to do it, but just try to hit this ball on a line to right center, right? There's no way they can do that without being at least a little bit shorter. I like that 1, 2, 3 drill as far as just seeing if we can get them sequenced properly, to use Bates's term, so that their back hip can kind of start their swing. But yeah, those are kind of the cues that I use. And then sometimes I have a couple kids who are really long, like they've really never been taught. So I like over exaggerate a drill of like, hey, dude, just put that bat on your shoulder, literally, which obviously is just a drill. And then I want to see if you can get your hips to get that barrel close to the hitting zone, and then go ahead and create some space from your hands through the pitcher. But that's how I do it with a long swing. Try to focus on target based, try to make sure they're using their hips. And I love the visual of that white line. Just it basically talking about direction. Like, can you stay from the inside part of the ball? How long can you stay through the pitcher? From all the years of throwing BP to big leaguers, it looks like that barrel is going to cut my head off. Like, it looks like it stays in the zone forever. And that's really powerful if you can teach these young guys, like, hey, don't try to get to the finish line, the Griffey finish that we all tried to do as kids. Try to stay through the ball and, try to cut the pitcher's head off with your bat. Not to get gory, but that's what I do with my high school guys. What about you, Coach Ballgame?
Well, the babies, I feel like they come out of the womb reaching back and taking a long golf swing. Yeah, that's just what I see for the most part. So I'm trying to train them as simple as I can. Exactly what you both have said. I'll try and use words that they understand, like a flashlight, like the knob of the bat is a flashlight. And let's just shine that flashlight on the ball that's coming. And they really can't hear, keep your hands close to your body. A 7-year-old can't understand that and then make their body do that like a 14-year-old might be able to. So as a youth coach, you really have to find ways to keep them out of their own head, and don't try and expect them to interpret this and have their mind tell their body what to do. Like, shine this flashlight on that ball and then swing forward. I'll also, because I see their barrels just drop and sag a lot under the ball, is I'll squat on home plate and I'll just have their hands and their bat go across my head like this, just so they can feel that right there, that straight swing. It's like, don't knock my head off my neck. Okay. And, maybe it's a high tee drill if they're ready for that. But yeah, again, for the youth, it's not make it or break it into the world. If
you ever put a tee behind a tee, like a higher tee behind the other tee, so they get to miss the first tee to, just so to miss it kind of as a visual. They might crush it too, but just to try to get them like, hey, can you I don't care how the ball goes, can you miss this first tee to hit the ball in the second tee? Something like that. They need to swing down a little bit more because they're so loopy.
No doubt about it. I mean, I got away with having a pretty bad swing just because I was a good athlete against mediocre pitching. But once I started facing really good pitching in college, I had to retool the whole thing. So that's where I really learned how to teach these kids how to swing the right way. So
that's also why Carl had no chance against Chop in the home run derby, was because I've seen Chop hit a fungo. He can backspin a fungo pretty dang good. I'm like, Carl's got zero chance during that story because I've seen Chopper swing before.
I want to say, I mean, I love what you just said there, but I agree. I want to say something for coaches, especially youth coaches, because I see this a lot with kids. They may have a long swing, yes, but let's say, well, in the cages, they're great, right? Like this really good swing. Don't forget that, look at their timing. And I think even at the big league level base, you can speak to this too. I know for me with high schoolers, before we start worrying about your swing, if they already have a good swing, were you on time and did you get a good pitch to hit? Right? So like that's where I always like to start. If I'm going to diagnose, a kid comes up, I have a stud. Actually, you love his swing, Batesy. You had him in one of our camps that you worked with me. Jude, he's a stud. But he'd be like, Coach, what did I do wrong there? It's like, dude, you were just late. Like, don't overthink it. Like, next time, just be on time, right? And swing at a good pitch. What are your thoughts on that as far as check those boxes off before you start getting into a swing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my little guy is dead oppo. He throws right-handed, it hits lefty, and I tell him to try to pull the ball into the dugout. He'll hit it to center field. I think guys can get in their own way if they're paralyzed at the plate, thinking so much internally instead of externally, like you just said, as far as then their timing can be thrown off. If they're the machine, obviously in a cage, a lot of times, like Mookie on the machine in the cage, he doesn't really pull the ball, but a lot of that is the timing and not having the rhythm of like the delivery on the mound. So I think, you load with your eyes and you kind of get in sync with the pitcher. And that's why guys who are ultimately, ultra quick to the plate or really slow tempo can throw guys' timing off and then they get all out of whack.
So Bard was his teammate. Him and Bard are good friends. We had Daniel Bard on the pod, and he talked about that too, as far as thinking externally opposed to internally. That helped him get through his throwing issues. So, I mean, for our listeners, like you heard it from another major league stud, Batesy, that dude, think externally, and that can oftentimes get you out of your own way. I love that.
Well, I mean, that's like you when you walk out and a pitcher's walked 3 guys in a row and you've got a breath mint and you give him the breath mint. Hey, let's get a little fresh start. All that does is just get him out of his own head, right? And now he can start to be a little more external. Plus, there's that levity, that sense of humor, which every coach needs to have. You need to have that sense of humor, that sarcastic wit where somebody can just laugh and then bang, they're out of their own head.
I did it last week.
I had a pitching coach.
Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead. I had a pitching coach in A-ball. I get up like 5 runs in the inning, and it was a mound visit. We walk up playing first base. We walk out to the mound, and the pitching coach looking behind the mound, like he's like looking like down on the ground behind the mound. I'm like, what's going on here? And as someone asks him, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just looking for a shovel to see how you're gonna dig yourself out of this mess. And I had to walk away laughing because the guy thought he was gonna say something really impactful, but it was not.
Yeah,
it was just...
no. Yeah, we had a tournament last weekend, and our pitcher like walked a couple guys, right? So I walked out there slowly. I'm giving my guy time to warm in the pen, but also my catcher, we had kind of rehearsed a joke that we would use if we ever needed it. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna pull the trigger on this thing. Why not? So I walk out there and I'm kicking the dirt. And I was like, hey, Colin's the catcher. We've been really discussing lately about just kind of the, just the drought in California. Like it's crazy. Like there's not enough water. They're having trouble, growing grapes, and it's tough. Like how do you solve that? And Colin jumps right in and goes, yeah, it's not so much about solving it. It's more just about raising awareness. Dried out grapes, raisins. So we died because we know the punchline, and then they all kind of got it, like, and they all laughed. And then it's like, okay, dude, hey, go get him. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like one pitch away, get your ground ball, you and Colin on a comeback. Let's go. Like we got this. And that's oftentimes all you're doing as a coach is how can you get these guys back into a good space mentally where they can be who they are. I mean, especially you, Bates, you've got the best those are the best athletes in the world, literally in the world. So can you get some humor in there to remind them, or for you, it's sarcasm a lot of times too. First of all, you're not that big of a deal, right? And this isn't that big of a deal, and this is going to pass. And you get to go home to your big house and your beautiful wife after, no matter what, So
yeah, I was up in Seattle. We were looking at the drive-line facility, and one of the guys, Chopper, he just retired, Steven Souza, comes and he picked us up from the hotel that day. And we get to the facility and they have a Matzik jersey, the Braves left-handed pitcher, up there on the wall. I was like, oh, Souza, remember when you sat slider and he punched you out? We lost the series. And he starts laughing. He's like, he's retired at this point. I'm like, it's all right, dude. You'll get over it. You'll remember it for probably when you're 60. You'll probably get over it. I'll be there to remind you about it.
That's the NLCS he's referring to. That wasn't just a series. Yeah. That was the NLCS.
And then one of the players up there who we had set up there was hitting, he's getting some bat speed training. I was like, hey, there's Matzik's jersey. You wouldn't be here if you could have hit his fastball. So just we'll throw that out there.
Man.
Sousa just had another baby. He's coming on the pod.
Yes,
coming up soon.
Right.
Hey, when you guys have him, ask him if he remembers Matzik at bat, the NLCS. He'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Sitting slider.
I will.
Against the guy throws 100. Throws 100, he's sitting slider. So you say, hey, Batesy wants to know, are you still sitting slider against Matzik in that slider?
So good.
I got one more troubleshooter for you. We're gonna get you out of here, Batesy. You got kids. We all got kids. But at a young age, I want kids to swing. I want kids to swing and miss. Figure out what you can hit hard and what you can't. Be aggressive, grunt, swing the bat. When you get up into middle school, high school, the off speed starts coming, college, pro ball. You got a guy that's chasing too much, chasing the curve in the dirt, chasing bad pitches. You've got a whole notebook of the kid. You know them up and down, but where do you go first when a kid's chasing?
So he's swinging everything, not getting a good pitch to hit. Is it just if it's anxiousness? If it's a guy that's our age, if they're chasing, I'll usually set the curveball machine up, the one that bounces in front of home plate, and say, we're gonna get good at hitting this one since you swing at it every time. And then it kind of like to go, okay, I'm just saying, let's just practice it. Since you're gonna swing at it, we'll just practice getting really good at it. But usually I think it's internal when a guy's chasing all that much. Some coaches might say if their mechanics are perfect, they'll swing at good pitches, and it's not about that argument. It's more so just I think that if they're spiked internally, or they're over anxious, or they're afraid to get to 2 strikes, that kind of thing. They want to try to swing early and chasing it. It's kind of the sooner someone's okay striking out looking, a lot of times what happens is they get better pitches to hit and they see the ball deeper. If you're trying to pull heaters and pull fastballs, a lot of times you're going to chase at the breaking ball out of the plate and down. So it's kind of like if all things being equal, they're okay letting the ball travel, get deep, hitting the fastball the other way correctly. They're gonna see the off-speed pitches pop and get the hangers and lay off the garbage below. But I think it's also a calmness that they have. They're ready to hit, but there's a calmness where there's a fearless where they're not worried about taking a strike or worried about taking, because not all strikes are created equal. So depending on the count and the situation, getting a good pitch to hit kind of dictates it, as far as what the count is, with who's the pitcher and what's the pitcher's history and that sort of thing. Younger kids, I think, would be a little bit tougher but I still think it stems from the same thing, the anxiety of trying to get a hit or wanting it so bad, so you just swing right out of the hand, swing at the rosin bag, that kind of thing. Trey Turner, I would flip him a rosin bag at times because we know that he would swing at it if they threw the rosin bag up there.
Sure.
But
and he'd beat it out if he made contact.
He did. He would. It would be a swinging bunt, and he'd be safe. But also with Trey, the Trey would be worse when he tried to only get pitches to hit. So I'd rather him have the conviction because he has such good bat to ball. He can kind of hit some ball pitches that are out of the zone. So I think that's also like knowing the hitter and depending on what he's going through. But like I said, all things created equal, seeing the ball deep and not necessarily trying to pull a heater, I think will allow you to get a better pitch to hit. That's just kind of, I make it sound easier than it is, but we're just saying generically speaking, I would say.
I love that.
And we were doing this last night with my high school kids, and this is great. So, Coach, I love that you asked this question, Coach Ballgame. At the high school level, now this does not apply to the major league level because you start getting guys like Johnny Cueto and some of the Max Scherzer, the guys that are like second semester, where they know they have you set up for a pitch, so they don't throw it because they know that and they're getting all second semester with it. This does not apply to the best players in the world, but at the high school level, this absolutely applies. First thing you said, they're not swinging enough. Well, you think yes out of the hand, right? So it's yes, get in position like Kinsler's told us, get in position to hit the fastball, and then you can always check off and take the pitch. You can't be thinking, I might not throw a strike, and then all of a sudden a board. So no, you got to think yes out of the hand. That's one. When you get to 2 strikes, I tell my guys there's one of 3 things that high school pitchers and catchers are going to do. And you should know this within a couple batters. OT, they're either going to go like this, right? So fastball up to set up the breaking ball down. They're going to go like that, right? So it's hard in to set up soft away. Or they're going to do that like palate cleansing fastball away, and then they kind of set up whatever they want. But they're going to be very predictable within a few batters. You're going to know, and they won't change unless you force them to change, right? So that's kind of what we look for. Is I'll get kids in the cage 0-2 count, and I'll say, all right, dude, this is the 3rd inning of the game. We already know what they're doing. So in that 0-2 pitch, it's not an auto take because high school pitchers make mistakes. So you want to try to see it down in the 0-2 count, right? It's a fastball. They're trying to throw it up, see it down. If it's a strike, hammer it, right? And then 1-2, see it up. That's that curveball they're trying to bounce. When they make the mistake, be ready. Otherwise, have a really good take. And now all of a sudden, when a pitcher makes his best pitch and you lay off of it, you need Bates, this, that screws up a catcher and a pitcher when they're like, dude, we executed our plan and the kid didn't swing. All of a sudden now you get them in a weird space mentally and they're probably going to make a mistake. The last thing I'll say is to touch on what Batesy said. We were doing this last night in a full count. I'm like, all right, boys, full count. And he's proven he can throw both pitches for strikes. Try to drive the fastball middle away so you can still cover the breaking ball. And that's true at the big league level. That's knowing how our guys teach it up there with the Dodgers. They're trying to create those go zones and different things so you can cover more than one pitch. You have to at the big league level. That's how we do it at the high school level.
And you keep them on the offensive. Like they're a little too offensive right now, but you don't want to just make them defensive. I especially at the youth level. And when I hear parents, don't swing at a bad pitch, don't chase a bad pitch, they're done mentally. They're done. They're just going to stiffen up.
Well, your brain doesn't understand don't.
Right.
Your brain doesn't understand don't. That's a negative connotation of like, don't swing a bad pitch. Or how about get a good pitch to hit? I mean, even still, that still might be a little bit passive if they take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, what about drive a ball to the opposite field gap or something like that? Like, whatever, lefty or righty, hey, get a good pitch and drive it the other way. And then they might see the ball deeper and they might take a pitch that they can't hit that. You're giving them an external spot or target. I would say external targets are plug and play. That works in game in the moment. It's the internal stuff that will block you out.
I told the story of Boaz. I told the story of Boaz a couple weeks ago in a tournament where he was just trying to hit the ball 8,000 feet. And I called time and I called him over and I reminded him how much I love him and that he's Bo Chop and he's the GOAT. And I said, just try to hit a rocket to right center, dude. And like 2 pitches later, he hit a bullet to right center. And I was like, wow, to your point, it was plug and play. That doesn't always work, but I was like, dang, Bo, like you're a savage.
You got so much buy-in after that, by the way. He'll listen to you forever. Yeah. For at least 2 more games. You got 2 more games of buy-in.
Well, Bo Chop and I are best friends, so we're pretty dialed.
There's been so many times when I tell an 8-year-old that's chasing, pulling off early, I'll say, just crush a ball, or just a right-handed hitter, crush a ball foul down the right field line. and they'd hit a bullet to left center. Next pitch happens all the time. So that over exaggeration, that externalizing, manipulating the situation where they stay on the offensive, even though you're trying to reel it in a little bit. I mean, you even do it at the highest level, Batesy. It's great. I love it. I don't have anything else, man. I could talk to you hitting all day. So Chopper, I'll throw it your way. Anything to close up shop?
Yeah. One more thing on keeping a kid offensive. So often coaches, when a kid swings or chases, these are youth coaches, a coach will scream at him. And to your point, now the kid's done. Right. Whereas for me, and I have kids all the time because I have my younger group, my 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and a kid will swing at a pitch over his head. And I'll tell him right away, hey, I love your aggression. I love that. Let's just try to see it down a little bit, but I absolutely love that. You stay right there. You know what I mean? So it's like, and they know like, oh, coach is going to love me no matter what. Yeah, dude, like stay aggressive. Like my thing is we're never going to hit our way out of the desert. Or excuse me, we're never going to walk our way out of the desert. It's like, dude, I want you to swing. We're never going to walk our way out of the desert. We got to swing it. So my kids know, and coaches instill that confidence in your kids. Swing the bat, dude. Like, cool, you had a 4-pitch walk. No one cares. Like, swing it, dude. Swing. So it's just teaching them like that aggression, but kind of this controlled chaos of like, and Batesy, you said this, know your hitter. Is he a kid who can zone or does he need that external target? But for me, with a kid, when he swings and misses, I celebrate it. I love it. I'm like, dude, I love that. What a swipe. Great swing. Bad intentions. I love it. Keep that positive vibe with the babies. Batesy, thank you so much for your time. You're the best. Love you. Love your family. We really appreciate it, dude. And congrats on the promotion, dude. Sick.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys. No, I enjoyed it. Thanks. And if you guys need anything, let me know. And we should do it again sometime. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Great speaker. Strong speaker game out of you.
Strong, handsome.
You're the best, dude. Have a great day, buddy.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, Batesy.
3.
Attaboy.
Love it.
See you, bud.
See you guys.
Later.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Man, I mean, best.
That was great. I mean, like, we could have talked for another 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
I have so much more. Like, I mean, there's what do you do when a guy's lunging, when the head's moving, when they're afraid to swing out in front of the off speed? Like, there's so many avenues we could have went down. But again, a hitting coach at the highest level on one of the best teams to ever play the game. Yep. He's getting to know his players first. He's winning the heart before he's teaching them anything about baseball. He's tossing balls in the cage, just trying to build that trust. And that's what I take away from this more than anything.
He has a PhD in feel. Like he really does. Like he knows how to push the right buttons with guys. He has that ability to have empathy. I've seen it from him, but he knows how to get the best players in the room, kind of getting them motivated too. He's so good. He's such a good coach. So that's why when I wrote down all these characteristics, I had 4. It's knowledge of the swing and the hitter swing, empathy, remembering how hard it is, communication skills and feel, and creating a plan to offset the pitchers and catchers plan. Like those are 4 things that he and RVS, the other hitting coach, who's a genius. RVS is an absolute genius. The other hitting coach with the Dodgers, they're just really, really good at that. And I love Batesy. He's great. And he doesn't want to talk about himself. So like, my computer went down. So I had all these notes on him about reading off his accolades. And I only said he won a state title as a quarterback. And there was way more about him. And I was like, hey, is there any way? He's like, no, that's good. He doesn't care. And that's maybe another thing I want to put on him for characteristic of a good hitting coach at the highest level is it's not about me. It's not about the coach. It's about the player. And he's so good at that too, of like, he's self-deprecating. He was amazing at baseball, but if you hear him talk about himself, he's not talking about how great he was. He was talking about how hard it was.
Yeah. PhD in feel. Can we all as coaches become a PhD in having a feel for all your players? He's got it big time. That was great.
That was great.
Merry Christmas, man. We're going to take
too,
next
buddy.
week off. We're going to enjoy the holidays. And I hope you all find that Christmas spirit and find that joy in giving. And just hang with the fam, love on your fam, and just know this, as we go into 2023, we thank you, all the Patreons, for your support, all the listeners, for the emails that you send, and just supporting this conversation we have on a weekly basis. I thrive on it. I love doing it with you, Chopper. I'm thankful for you. And hey, bigger and better in 23.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to all the coaches out there impacting lives of the youth.
Yes.
And thanks to you, dude. Like, who knew when you and I started this deal that we'd have 50 episodes in the can, so to speak, and some big plans for 2023. I can't tell you how excited I am about Joe Davis coming up. I'm really excited for our listeners and for just folks in general to get to know Joe. He's such a good human. So he's just another one that we're bringing on. That every one of the folks we bring on this podcast, from Rick Honeycutt to Joe Davis to Mookie, these are all people that we would be proud to have spend time with your family. Like, they're just such good humans. And that's kind of, if anyone's wondering, like, oh, we have this all different spectrum. Yeah, but the one common theme for all of our guests is these are great humans, and Joe's another great human, and you're a great human. So thankful for you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you in a few weeks, dude. Don't forget to rake.
Honored. Let's rake and bang. Tommy G, you the man.